I think that to me is where going outside of your lane doesn't work, is when you try and do something that is not authentic to your lived experience. People detect that straight away and they reject the band.
Yeah, especially I would say in black metal, like 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's it probably even goes super extreme, I would say, in black metal. But yeah, like people can tell when you're just like, oh yeah, look at me doing this. And this is cool, and you're like, get the fuck out of here. Like, no, like just like I feel like black metal is like one of the last genres where you can actually do things, or you can hate stuff, or you can talk shit about everybody else in the genre, whatever you want to fucking do. But like, if you're not real about it, then it's like it just comes off bad, and people see it.
Greetings, friends, and welcome to episode 187 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, my good friend Christian Larson of Necrofier and Night Cobra returns to the podcast to talk about their fantastic new record, Burning Shadows in the Southern Night. We also set the world to rights by speaking about several other topics near and dear to all of our hearts, including the Panzerfaust Ace of Cups saga. We spoke about merchandising shares charged by unscrupulous venue owners. We spoke about Christian's own festival, Hell's Heroes, and much, much more. Definitely, I believe, the best episode we've recorded together. You guys are going to absolutely love it, and it will be coming your way very shortly. But first, Cult Burial is a band that I have featured multiple times on the show. Big fan of their music. I believe that they are one of the true undiscovered gems of the UK blackened death metal scene. They are going to be releasing a new album on the 20th of October called The Reverie of the Malignant, and naturally, when it came to deciding where they were going to do a world premiere of their new single, there was no other option but Into the Necrosphere, because they know that when the Legion likes them some new music, they will go to that band's Bandcamp, they'll buy the music, they'll show their support, and I believe that Cult Burial are richly deserving of your support. So I'm going to be playing a new track by them for the first time ever. This is a song called Awaken. That was the world premiere of Awaken, the new single by Cult Burial, who release their brand new record, Reverie of the Malignant, on October the 20th. So it's still a ways off, but I've heard the whole thing, and spoiler alert, it is fantastic. So make sure you head over to their Bandcamp, link in the description to the podcast, pre-order the album as soon as that becomes available. Let them know that it was old Jackson at Into the Necrosphere that sent you, and maybe I can convince one of them to come on the podcast at some point. We've played their music an awful lot, but we've not actually had them in the hot seat answering the tough questions. So we will see about making that happen at some point, hopefully down the road. If you are new to the podcast, my friends, make sure that you elbow drop the subscribe button on your platform of choice. The show is on YouTube. It is on Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Apple. If there is a platform that does not host Into the Necrosphere, that is because that platform is garbage. Also, make sure that you follow me on the socials. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you really love and support the show, or really want to show your love and support to the show, then head over to the Into the Necrosphere Teespring store. Buy yourself a t-shirt or a hoodie or a tank top for those of you that want to strut your stuff and show off your muscles in the summer months. Most importantly, I am a member, as some of you may know, of the podcasting Illuminati, known as the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. It starts on a Monday with my friend Brandon Legion talking to horror writers, producers, directors, and others working in the industry on his weekly or bi-weekly podcast, Horrorwolf 666. Every Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses on Into the Necrosphere. Next week, I have got John Krieger of Blackbraid on the podcast. There are a couple of Blackbraid interviews floating around, and I don't want to be one to throw shade, but many of them are unlistenable nonsense. This is the definitive conversation with John of Blackbraid, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. This was a really deep, very interesting conversation, and I am very proud of it. I'm very excited about you guys hearing it, and that's going to be coming your way next week. On Wednesday, Sensei Mike Hill brings you his long-running podcast, Everything Went Black. He returns every Thursday with Necromaniacs alongside Sheriff Mike Scondado and Professor Jeff Kashid. It is one of my favorite podcasts of the week. They review old and new horror movies, and if you have not quite had your fill of all of them, then make sure, if you missed it, you check out last week's episode of Into the Necrosphere, because we did a supersized countdown of our favorite 90s death metal. A great time was had by all, and some interesting feedback coming back from that episode, but you guys absolutely loved it, and I'm already very excited about the sequel. We are planning to do a thrash-flavored follow-up, so that is going to be coming your way in the next couple of months. Finally, every Sunday, the Reverend Carl Hikara brings you a journey into the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric with his podcast, Soul Knocks. He has recently exceeded the 50-episode milestone, so congratulations to him. A great dude, and I've been on his podcast many times. I will be on it, hopefully, many times more. So make sure that you are giving him all the love and support that you can as well. Finally, if you get to the end of my conversation with Christian, don't go anywhere. There's no review this week. I'll do a review roundup next week, but there are some new singles out, including a single by Blut Aus Nord. All of them will be rounded up for judgment on my weekly news rant, so stick around for that. But right now, sit back and enjoy. This is my friend Christian Larson of Necrofier. Just as I was busy, or as I was waiting for you to log on, I was having a gander again at the lineup for Hell's Heroes 4, and I have to say, if anything, or Hell's Heroes 2024, I should say, if there's anything that's going to motivate me to come to Texas. Fucking hell, dude.
Thanks, dude.
I mean, I don't know if you've got more bands to announce, but I mean, for anybody who's not seen this yet, so Sodom, Queensryche, Candlemass, fucking great. Rotten Christ, old school set, awesome. Forbidden. And just recently I've been getting back into Forbidden Evil. So, I mean, and, you know, I generally like a lot of stuff Forbidden. I even like the Green album, you know, which a lot of people hate. So, yeah, man, what an insane lineup. I noticed there's a bit of a black metal flavor starting to creep into that as well.
I've always wanted to put more black metal on it, except it kind of started off more as a traditional heavy metal thing, and then, I mean, I like more than traditional heavy metal. And also, like, there's only so many traditional heavy metal bands left.
Yeah.
So I can do. So, you know, that's like where kind of old, like, that's kind of where, like, where I started going in the direction of like Razor and Forbidden, Possessed, and some things like that, because I feel like it works perfectly with it. But I also feel black metal does, except a lot of it's in Europe that I would want to get. So now that I've got it, I'm able to kind of, I have a little more freedom to do what I want to do than say like in previous years. I'm gonna do it.
And is that is just kind of because the festival's now got proper name recognition? You know, people, you know, they know about the festival. It's kind of becoming like it's becoming a destination on the calendar now.
Yeah, like I think finally, like especially this last year, it really hit where people just want to come to the fest. I mean, obviously, I need to get a good lineup and some things like that to entice people to travel for it. But a lot of people are just stoked about. They're just like the fest, and I'm like, okay. So now, like, since it hit that, now I can sneak more stuff in that I want. Like some, like, you know, some it's more obscure stuff or like things that I would really like to do that maybe I couldn't be able to do in the past because I was just making sure that like I'd be able to make everything work.
Mm-hmm.
Dervaza is a good example. Like I love Dervaza.
Ditto.
Me and Bjorn are friends, and I was like, "Do you guys want to come to the States?" And he was like, "Yeah, we want to fucking come to the States." So then I can do stuff like that because I mean, the other half of it is, besides good music, a lot of bands that play the fest, especially the younger ones, are my friends. So I really like to do things, you know, to support people like that I like and I'm good friends with and that play good music, you know. And I have the opportunity to actually make stuff happen like that, so I try to do it as much as I can.
Yeah. You know, I spoke about it to somebody on a couple of episodes ago, and we were talking about like the, you know, community and how important that's becoming again when it comes to the whole scene. You know, it's always been important to a degree, but I almost think there's communities within the wider community. I mean, the wider communities, I've made my thoughts known on that, but you know,
Yeah.
there's communities within the community. You know, even with the podcast, I see like, you know, there's certain podcasts. Obviously, we've got the Horsemen, but even other podcasts, individuals and bands also kind of in that orbit. And I think that's really fucking exciting because in a way, I don't know if you want to call it, you know, it's kind of self sorting, but it's definitely like-minded people from a musical perspective, from a just, I guess, a life perspective, just sort of all gravitating together. And that to me is very, very cool. I think the other thing that is also doing is it's creating a platform whereby a lot of bands can get noticed now that maybe couldn't have been noticed before. In a way, I almost think it's a function of the fact that there's so many bands right now. You almost kind of, in a way, that division almost needed to happen so that you can have. I don't know if I'm thinking out loud now, but I think you know what I mean. Right?
It's 100% true. There's too many bands, so it's real hard to decipher through some of it. Because I mean, there's a lot of good bands, there's a lot of bad bands, but it's hard to get through it all without just listening to every single one, which is obviously not for everyone.
Yeah.
So, but like that stuff really helps, like especially when certain bands like click, like, you know, all of a sudden it's like this starts happening, and then they're, you know, it's like they're in the same field where they other people that maybe not heard of them, they're like, oh, that band's always associated with those, let me check them out.
Yeah.
Or when the other stuff you're talking about, like-minded stuff, like when I see, like, oh, so I got an email from, or a message on, I think, Instagram from someone from this occult bookstore on about Hell's Heroes, and I was like, all right, I'm fucking doing the right thing. Stuff I'm into. These people are like into the fest. This, you know, besides like that was like beyond like the just, you know, music and things like that. I'm like, these are things I'm interested in. I read about all the time. So for someone to message me like that, it made me like it was an extra feeling of like community of like, oh, because a lot of times with to find like-minded people, you know, it's like I talk to different people across the world, and there's not, you know, and there's not a ton of those either where I feel like I'm on the same page as. And it's refreshing just to kind of see it all come together where it's like, oh, okay, you like your guys are into like say the occult, but you're also into heavy metal, and you would be into a festival, and then other different things where it all kind of comes together, where I just don't feel like I'm sitting out here in the middle of nowhere by myself going, okay, I hope somebody maybe is interested in something that I like.
Yeah, yeah. What's the capacity of the White Oak Music Hall, where you host the festival?
For the festival, it's close to 4,000.
Jesus, I mean, yeah, that's fucking massive. And the 2023 show, that was sold out?
The 2023, so we used to, like, I was still doing the model. We did it inside, but it sold out pretty quick, and we moved it outside, and there was about 2,500 people there last year.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything with the festival is going great. Like, I couldn't ask for anything more. Well, because usually when I go to town on the lineup, I'm like this. All right, here's all the bands I want. So I just send stuff out, and then nobody fucking responds, or like not nobody, but like half, because I chase a lot of stuff that's not. I'm not going like, hey, I need this band that tours all the time. Like, how much do you want? Blah blah, and it's like a real easy process. A lot of bands I'm talking to, I'm like talking to the dude. Like I'm talking to the guitar player, or like even like Solitude Eternus. Me and John Perez have been friends for like a decade. And like when I started the festival, I was all, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. He's like, dude, we're not doing that. So I just ask him every single year. I even asked him in January, and he said no. And then
shit. So what changed? What made him change his mind?
I don't know. Like, so Night Cobra did some dates with Exciter after Hell's Heroes last year, and we were in Dallas, and he was at the show, and everybody's having a good time. He was having a couple of drinks, and I was like, we can still do it. I saved you a spot. And he was like, let me get back to you. And then somehow over like between the end of March or the beginning of April and in June, I just kept in touch. And he's like, all right, I'm really going to try this. And it happened. So,
yeah. Well, dude, it's very close to my birthday as well. So I have to tell you, I'm massively, massively tempted to come. I'll need to go on a starvation diet for about 2 months, because I'll be back from South Africa in January.
Yeah.
If I go to Texas, it's game over. I'm gonna eat so much barbecue. I'm literally there's gonna be smoke. Oak smoke is gonna be pouring out of my fucking skull. And then, as I said, just these
what
bands.
wood it is they use for Texas barbecue as well.
Post oak. Yeah, yes. There we go. Yeah, I know my Texas barbecue very well, mate. Very, very well. The amount of time I spend watching and obsessing over barbecue videos, like I already know all the places I want to go to when I go to Texas. Goldie's, without a shadow of a doubt. Franklin's, without a shadow of a doubt. There's probably like 3-4 others. I was looking at a video the other day of like food trucks in Austin. It's fucking insane. It's like better than just about every restaurant combined that we have in the UK. And it's literally just like, guys are just running it out of a truck.
Well, especially right now, Texas barbecue's hit a point where it's doing super well, and there's more of them opening, and there's some really, really good ones. Actually, at the fest, my friend Willow, like I had him come last year, and he's going to come back again. But he does like a simpler, he just like kind of like pulled pork and some other stuff and some sausage and other things. But like, it's still Texas barbecue done by a dude from Texas. So
yeah.
But that kind of stuff, especially like I try to make sure. A lot of people, most of the people that are at the fest are not from Houston and not even from Texas. So having like barbecue and tacos and different things from people that actually do it in the city that are good at it is important to me, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everybody gets to eat good food, but you also get to experience like, what you should eat when you're down here, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, as I said, I'll keep you posted, but I'm very tempted. And again, that even just Forbidden would tempt me, because I've been on such a kick with that band recently. As I said, Forbidden Evil is genius, but I love every single record. I love Green. I love Omega Wave. Yeah. I think it's a fucking fantastic band. A very criminally underrated band, in my opinion.
Agreed. They're one of my favorite thrash bands. I wanted to get them for a while, and last time I asked, they were like, "We're not doing anything anytime soon." Yeah. And then for some reason it came into I was like, man, I should really check back on Forbidden. And then I remember like thinking that, and I was like, I'll dive into this like later that day. And then I looked at something, there was a news article that says Forbidden creates an Instagram page. And I was like, oh, this is fucking happening.
Yeah.
I was like, so then the hunt began, and it all worked out.
Yeah. No,
all came like we played like Necrofier just went out with Midnight. And we played in Oakland, and they're all from the Bay Area. So like all the guys came out and hung out. It was rad.
Yeah. How was the Midnight tour?
Midnight Tour was great. Rowdy shows. All shows were pretty, pretty packed. Midnight Guys are great. Early Mood Dudes are great. Like all around, it was a really good tour.
So I mentioned this to you when we were exchanging messages. I've mentioned it on the podcast, but it's funny. I was looking at the photos that you posted from the tour recently, and you even see it in the photos. There's like on album number 2, there's definitely a palpable sense of an increased confidence in Necrofier. Like just the way you guys, like I was watching the video clip that you posted earlier today, and just the way you guys carry yourself on stage, you just seem so much more comfortable in your own skin, and that is definitely translated to the music as well. Like I feel like with the first record, it was very good, but it was kind of like, you were sort of, there was almost a slight tentativeness to some of the songs, and then in Burning Shadows and the Southern Night, it's like, multiple gear shifts, and it's like, okay, we found our feet now. This is our lane. This is what we're gonna go full Pelton. It's a fucking phenomenal record. Really, really, really good, mate. I mean, I and I mean this very, very respectfully and out of, from a place of love, but I was surprised by how good it was. Even starting with A Fall from Heaven, which is like such a swerve. It's like, I didn't expect that to be the intro. And then the rest of the record comes and it's just, furious, fucking brilliant, dark, nasty black metal, exactly up my street.
Thank you. Yeah, like so the record, like I'm really happy with the album, and even like from like just so like the intro, there was like this weird, I don't know what they're even called in the studio, where it's like looks like a piano that doesn't have like a top cover on it, and it's just strings. Like it's like basically like the inside. It looks like the inside of a piano, except you play it with these little things. So we were listening to a lot of Dead Can Dance, and Dauber created like all the melody and stuff like that, and his wife Cammie from Oceans was in New York with us when we were recording. So Cammie did all those vocals. We did I used some weird instrument that like you pour water into and you move around like this, and it gives you like yeah. But studio stuff and experimenting is like one of my favorite things. We didn't, because that intro didn't even exist, even almost as an idea until the day we did it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk through the record and kind of do it track by track, because the Legion seems to like that very much, and it always opens up kind of additional elements of conversation. But I mean, just rounding off The Fall from Heaven, I think it's one of those things where if you had not started the record with that, it would almost feel it would feel robbed, it would feel empty for not.
I feel like it really fits well in the where it's at. Like it sets the tone for the record, and it's like, let's go.
Do you feel like the going on tour, playing with different bands, getting exposed to a lot of different music that maybe you didn't know as much about before? Although, I mean, I know you're also, again, judging by your vinyl collection, obsessive with collecting music, but
just
like I feel like you're painting, when I listen to this record, I feel like you're painting from a much broader palette, music wise.
I think like when I was originally like writing a lot of Necrofier songs, I felt like maybe there was like a world I needed to stay in, or just I was kind of going through this and that, and then I kind of realized I didn't somewhere along the lines, and then stuff started flowing where it's like I say The Devil's Blood's one of my favorite bands, so and things like In Solitude and some things like that from that era. And then also, like, I mean, especially like Watain, obviously, kind of things. But I was like, I really love that kind of 2010 frame of all that music that was coming from that kind of like world. So I really wanted to kind of do something that kind of fit into there. Like, it's like it doesn't really have, it's like it's dark, but it doesn't necessarily have to be defined as like just something particular, and taking that and making it more like giving it a black metal like feel to like that kind of what I was trying to go in that direction. But yeah, like I feel like there's a lot less rules on this one than maybe there was like kind of going on the first one. Like in the first one, I was like worried maybe I would do too much heavy metal riffs, because I was like listening to too much heavy metal. But then I was just like, why do I care? I was like, if this sounds good and this works and it still feels like it's a Necrofier song, like that's what it is.
And that's kind of the joy of black metal, right? As a listener, I've said this many times before. It's a genre that in the last, I'd say, especially the last decade,
Mm.
it's very much it allows for a huge amount of creative freedom. Like you guys would be classed as black metal, but then so would Aklis and so would Panzerfaust. And if you put the three of you guys together in terms of music, it's very, very different and very distinct. But that's what makes it so exciting. We were talking about Forbidden, but if you go back to those old 80s thrash records, I mean, that was the great thing about that era, was just how unique and how distinct those bands sounded. You recognize a Testament riff from a Forbidden riff, from a Creator riff, a Sodom riff immediately. Everyone had like their own distinct vibe, their own distinct sound. And there's a lot of black metal that does kind of play in or dabble in similar sonic territory, but there's also a huge amount of distinction between the bands, especially the bands that kind of just forge ahead with their own sound, forge ahead with their own creative path.
Yeah, because you can, now that it's widespread, where anything from like where you basically those bands you named off, like in Us, are like a perfect example where you can kind of create stuff and do whatever you want. I mean, there's tons of, like, in any kind of music, there's always people that are just like, oh, cool, like people are playing this and now this is what I'm doing or whatever, But it's always more interesting to do something that's a little bit different than everybody's doing, regardless. I mean, if you're writing stuff, I guess it all comes down to like you should stay true to like whatever you're writing or whatever, kind of like whatever you create and things like that. But it's interesting just to like, like that there's so many, that's a widespread of like, this is black metal and this is black metal. And it's like all in here in between and things like that.
Yeah. Do you write with the live show in mind at all? And this is, I'll ask it just purely out of curiosity, because
I would say this record, like, I didn't think about it, but when we got done, because like Dower and I do most, like on this record, did most of the writing, but I feel like when it got done, I feel like this is just a record to play live. Was like how it feels. Like playing these songs like live is real powerful, even though like a lot of them came from me sitting in my bedroom.
Yeah,
and and things like that. So, but yeah, like that's how I feel about it now. Like when I created it, like when stuff was getting written, I didn't really know. Like I was just like, I really like how this sounds, and maybe that's what I like to hear. So that's how it went.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing with, I think, a lot of bands when they go out and they play songs live. I mean, I as much as I love Marduk, this is the one criticism I've always had of them, is they play too many of their fast songs. There's, they have all these tracks that they could play that will create that dynamism at a show, and those peaks and valleys that I personally I like at a show. Maybe it's because I got reared on Metallica live shows that really have that, whatever you want to say about them, they have that part nailed down pat. There's a heavy song, then there's a slower song, but this album sort of has that dynamism almost built in, which is why I asked you the question. But you start off with an absolute ripper in Total Southern Darkness. Talk to me about that track.
Total Southern Darkness was I was actually working on that riff like when we finished up Prophecies. And in my head, that was going to be on the last record, except it wasn't anywhere near close. And we weren't rehearsing at the time for, like, we had already got done. And we're like, cool, waiting for Dauber to start the drums and just record. So I started working on that one. Really, a lot of that just had to do with kind of like the dyads in it, like the way it was just making me feel. And I was like, I really like just kind of like something about it. It kind of set the tone, because I was like, I really want to do something more Southern, like as in like what ties something to where we're at. And that's like the song's about, like, it's like it's about like the Crossroads, Robert Johnson kind of stuff, like selling your soul, like in the South, so that, because especially like when you think black metal, it's like you think Scandinavia, cold mountains, winter, all that other stuff. And like, and there's bands that don't live in that kind of territory and sing about that kind of stuff, and I find that's kind of weird.
Yeah, a band is based out in,
but when you sing about specific stuff that maybe should be like maybe your environment affecting you, I feel like that gets weird. Like, I mean, you can sing, like, you want to sing about Odin, you can sing about Odin from wherever. Like, is it more authentic if you live in Scandinavia? Like, I think so, but I wanted to do something that was like tying into the South, and for some reason, like the way that song felt and that topic all like kind of, I feel like, went together.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, even down to the title, "Burning Shadows in the Southern Night." I liked the sort of what I took away from that was kind of that slight tip of the hat to Texas,
Mhm.
and I like that because I agree completely with what you say. I think I it's critical for me that any artist does something that is authentic to them, right? And it's not authentic if let's take South Africa where I'm from.
Mhm.
Most of the bands from there are garbage anyway, but the bands that, or bands that do black metal over there, the weather is great.
Yeah.
It's there's no snow there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of beautiful scenery and stuff, but it's not snow-capped mountains. Why are you going to sing about snow-capped mountains? Why are
Yeah,
you
I
going to talk?
find that
Why
kind
are
of
you going
stuff
to talk
great.
about shit that you never experienced yourself?
Yeah, it's because you can get off on some like weird, like when people sing about something in history or philosophies or things like that. Because those aren't really. I mean, they can be tied to a region, but I feel like you can sing about those kind of stuff and it's not weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, but if you start saying like you live in the desert and you start singing about snow, it's like what? No, 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 no. Just cut it out.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I believe people gravitate towards authenticity,
Yeah.
and you see that in all walks of entertainment. I mean, the if you look at fighters, for example, the greatest or the most popular MMA fighters, the most popular pro wrestlers, it's always been people that have effectively just turned the volume up on their personality. Even the biggest pro wrestlers of them all, Stone Cold Steve Austin, he'll openly say, "I just turn the volume up on my personality." It's why you get a guy like George St. Pierre in the UFC, who was this, he's this kind of almost softly spoken, French Canadian, but people loved him because what they saw in him was authenticity. I think it's true of bands as well. I think that to me is where going outside of your lane doesn't work, is when you try and do something that is not authentic to your lived experience. People detect that straight away and they reject the band.
Yeah, especially I would say in black metal, like 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's it probably even goes super extreme, I would say, in black metal. But yeah, like people can tell when you're just like, oh yeah, look at me doing this. And this is
Yeah.
cool. And you're like, get the fuck out of here. Like, no, like just, like, I feel like black metal is like one of the last genres where you can actually do things or you can hate stuff or you can talk shit about everybody else in the genre, whatever you want to fucking do. But
Mm.
like, if you're not real about it, then it's like, it just comes off bad and people see it. And
Yeah.
you either
No.
get clowned or people just write you off or just don't pay attention to you.
Yeah. I would agree with that. So next up, we've got To the Wolves.
To the Wolves, Dauber wrote this song. He was talking about like when he's like, "Oh, I got a couple songs I've been working on," and sent it to it, and just that riff, I was like, "Yes!" Just comes out and it's just blazing tough. I was like, "Yeah, we needed a song like this," It's like especially live. That song, that's like we were playing that song second on the tour.
Mm.
And it would come out and when that hits, just that riff hits and it just starts flat and it just hits and it's just like.
Speaking of tough, one of the things I noticed of you guys on stage, most of you, including you look like you've packed on some muscle over the course of the last year or two. Are you just greasing up strategically, or
I
is
mean,
that?
some of that probably is because of the amount of sweat that's coming off of me. But yeah, like
Yeah.
the last couple of years, I've been trying to get back in the gym more and be in shape. Just like it makes me feel better. In general, just like exercising, working out, and things like that. It also helps me on stage where it's not easy just to go crazy for 30 to 40 minutes. And then, if you're out of shape, like winded, pull something, physically exhausted, any of that. So it kind of, a lot of that, I feel like all goes together. It's like taking care of your everything. Like if you take care of your body and your mind and all that kind of stuff, it helps, everything else is a little bit easier.
Yeah. So I think I always think about, when I think of like peak physical performance on stage, I always think of Axl Rose in his prime, and I think
Oh
to myself,
man.
like, does anyone realize if they watch that Live in Paris 1992 show of theirs, or they watch the Guns N' Roses Live in Tokyo shows, do they realize what that dude was doing like for 2.5 hours on those shows,
Yeah, the amount, like,
running around in his boxer shorts like a fucking lunatic, singing, like screaming at the top of his voice. I don't think the average person realizes how difficult that was.
no, I think honestly, like if it's just like you go up there and you do your thing and it's all cool. Like, and it's like no big deal. And like it's, you know, it can be, I mean, it can be exhausting, especially when you have to do it night after night kind of thing, where you're not taking care of yourself like that, and you're not young. Like it'll really start to affect you. But I mean, it's a ton of work. I mean, especially Axel, like the way Axel was in the '90s and things like that. I mean, yeah, he's like just running, like straight running. Besides the fact that he's singing, which just him singing for 2 hours like that would just wear you out. So, and him wearing like a catcher's shield and whatever and other stuff isn't like, you know, making it any easier. Yeah, it demands like a certain level of you, like I think physically and mentally, to like continuously play shows. You know, like one-off shows, I mean, still is like a lot, but like when you go out and it's like, you know, you wake up, you get in the van, you sit in the van forever. Then you get to a show and you have to unload all your gear. And then after that, you get to rest for a little bit. Then you play, and then it's like repeat.
Yeah. Yeah, I have very limited experience of being on stage. I was in a band in South Africa when I was 20, 21. The first show that we played, you know, we were practicing 3 times a week, so I wasn't unpracticed. You know, I knew what I was doing. I got on stage and I was running around and, you know, jumping around like a lunatic and headbanging and stuff like that, like really giving it, you know, the full Phil Anselmo treatment to the best of my abilities. I got to the 3rd song and I literally was sitting there going, oh my God, I'm going to fucking pass out before the show's over. It's like the lights, you know, they're like lights as hot as they are, and like you're you know screaming and shouting and stuff, and then you know moving around the way you are on top of that. So that's why that's why whenever I see somebody, you know, who's able to do that, I'm always super impressed, because it's like I know exactly what it feels like to be in your spot, just doing it a one-off, not even a tour, as you say, like, you know, doing it day in and day out. It's not just like it's not anybody, it's not in anybody's wheelhouse to just stand up there and do that. Is there like any routine that you follow before you guys go out on tour?
As far like exercising kind of thing?
Yeah.
I do kind of like just regular, like my friend owns a gym in the neighborhood, so I usually go up there. It's kind of like class based. Like she's an Olympic lifter. I usually don't do too much of that because that stuff drives me crazy. But you know, it's like it's not like a CrossFit workout, but it's in that world where it's like weights and cardio kind of stuff together. But I'll do stuff like that. I do some like breathing exercises, like some Wim Hof stuff, like that really, like having that extra air and things. I feel like really helps, especially with singing.
Yeah.
Just like lung capacity, being able to control it, because I like, especially in like singing in the way I do in Necrofier, being able to control it, like your airflow and like, you know, like that is the difference between you passing out and not. And if you can really do it well, then you can just just go to town, and it's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Did you like? Have you found that's gotten easier over time? Because I mean, you're obviously a bit more practiced at it now. I remember when you and I first spoke, you said that the vocals were something that you hadn't really tried before.
This is, I mean, Necrofier is the first band I sang in this. I feel strangely too comfortable singing it.
Yeah,
if that's even a thing. But I feel like I've really like expanded it. Where now, before I would just think of like, hey, this is how I'm singing, and now there's like different ways I'll do it depending on like what it needs in the song and some things like that. Like this one's more high, this one's like more low, and I'm using like my diaphragm, or just, you know, like pure just like shrieking, or yeah. One thing I always feel super confident about is at least singing in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I would imagine the confidence comes from the demonic possession that you're under.
It's something like that.
Everyone in metal is possessed by demons. So, all right. So next we've got Forbidden Light of the Black Moon.
Forbidden Light of the Black Moon is me really being obsessed with like Rotting Christ and Dawn. A bit like that hammer-on riff I've been messing with for a while. And I've always been like, I've always wanted to do something like that in a song, and I just it never ever went anywhere, like even in other bands. And I was like, this is too good. And I was thinking, I was like, is this too much? And then I was listening to a lot of just like Hellenic black metal, and I'm all, no, I can pull this off. This will work, right? And the song came together pretty quick. After like just kind of like I took the immediate riff and then I just wrote the rest of it behind it. It just kind of like it has like a real like triumphant feel to it, and it's like I'm really happy how that one came out, especially because I feel like at least in our circle of bands and friends and things like that, like no one has anything like that.
Yeah. What is your go-to albums when it comes to Rotten Christ?
Triarchy, mostly. Like King of the Stellar War is like my favorite song from Rotting Christ, period. Mighty Contract's also amazing, but and then some of the middle stuff isn't like unnecessarily. I don't dislike it, but I don't jam it too much. But
what like Theogonia and Ailo?
Yeah, but then like when Rituals came out, I didn't even listen to Rituals immediately, just for somehow it just wasn't on my radar at the time. And then like I was like, why didn't I ever listen to this record? So I went and listened to Rituals, and I was blown away. I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. It's a phenomenal record. I actually, so Theogonia, Ailo, and I cannot pronounce the name of the other one, Qatar, whatever it's called. Those became over time my favorite Rotting Christ records. I would have. So I remember when Ionia came out, I was very, actually no, it was Theogonia that first came out. I was very like I couldn't get my head around it because I was really into Genesis. Theogonia came out, I was like, this is so different. It's just not, I'm just not feeling this. And it probably took me the better part of a year. And after a year, it was like everything just kind of snapped into focus. And then I think that trilogy that they did, what I love about it so much is, it literally sounds like you're in the middle of like a Spartan war or something like that. And in a weird way, it seems to kind of have a spiritual, not really musical, but very much a spiritual connection to Triarchy of the Lost Lovers. Like especially my favorite track of Triarchy of the Lost Lovers, which is Archon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great band. That old school set that they're going to be doing.
Sockness, like the last time they came to the States, I've been kind of thinking about this for a while, because especially like in my move to sneak some black metal into the festival, I was like, Rotting Christ is the fucking easiest one because they're almost a heavy metal band. Like,
yeah.
So Sockness, I was like, we were talking about stuff, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, Necrofier is a great band. We should play together. I was like, of course we should play together. Just let me know whenever you want to do that. And then I was like, hey, I also do a festival. Like, how would you feel about doing like an early Rotting Christ set, like first 3 records, picked songs, whatever you want to do? And he's like, oh, yeah, I've done that before. I would love to do that. But are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And Gordon from Season of Mist was there, and he was like, yeah, Christian's Festival. Like, I was like, this is the lineup last year. And he was like, oh, this is really cool. So I didn't really mess with it for a while. I can't remember that. It was like in February. And then, this was this February. And then, so then I went to Inferno, and he was doing like a solo set for the first time there. And it walks up, and he's like, Christian, what's up? He's like, you thought any more about Hell's Heroes? Are we going to do it? And I'm all, oh, okay. Like, you're vested in this. Like, you remembered, when you're on the road that much and have met that many people, sometimes, I don't really know. Like, you talk to people, some people forget. Whatever. And I don't know Sockers that well. So, like, when he walks up and he's like, remembers me by name and mentions it, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. I was like, I want to do this anyways, but this makes it even more special, that he's been doing stuff that long and he still cares that much.
Dude, he is one of the most sincere people I've ever met in my entire life. I've told the story before, but when they had the 7/7 terrorist attack in London, where they had like 5, I think it's 4 or 5 suicide bombers that detonated themselves on different trains on the 7th of July. The first person that messaged me, that sent me an email to ask me if I was okay, was him. Because I'd interviewed him for Sanctus Diabolos about, I think it was Sanctus Diabolos, about like 4 or 5 weeks prior, and we'd exchanged a couple of emails, but it wasn't like we weren't bros or anything like that. But yeah, first person to message me, ask me if I was all right was him, and that tells you an awful lot about about him as a man.
Yeah.
He's a deeply sincere human being, and he really is into his music, like really loves what he does musically.
You can like he's you can definitely tell just by hanging out with him, like the aura he puts off of just like who he is and what he's into is like 2000% real, and it's refreshing actually for um to see somebody that's been doing that long and like they still like they get like excited about things, lit up, and just generally like how he is.
Well, the thing is, he's generally speaking a fan of music, and I think
Yeah.
that to me has always been a big difference maker. When I see bands that are, they talk about how the new generation is rubbish, and there's no good music coming out. It typically always is translated into the quality of their musical output. Sometimes there's exceptions. There's one gentleman who I shan't name who his music is,
I was like, did you have Chris Barnes on your show? What's going on?
no, not at all. But no, mate, after some of the horrible things I've said about him, he's never going to be able to be on the
Right?
podcast. But it's no, there's one or two exceptions, but
Yeah.
the guys that are 3 decades strong into this and are still putting out music that's relevant and interesting and exciting to listen to. They're people who genuinely love music, all genres of music. Shane Emery, to me, fantastic example of somebody like that.
Yeah.
They are. You have to be that way to still be into this music. I think Testament is the same. Testament, the guys in the band are genuinely they appreciate a variety of different styles of music, which is why the new music they put out is still fucking great.
Well, look at somebody like say Cannibal Corpse is one. Cannibal Corpse is like on like I feel like they've got to be like more on top of the world than they've ever been. Besides, they're like the biggest death metal band in existence. Those dudes, like all they do is like they support everybody in their scene that's new. Like touring this and that, and like it's. I mean, that's the only way. Like I feel like stuff helped. Like whatever you want to call it, like the changing of the guard, it's got to happen at some point because everybody that's been around, everybody loves, ain't gonna play forever.
Well, they've always been like that because when I saw them and I met Alex Webster on that tour. They had, I mean, I've seen them quite a few times actually, but they had Spawn of Possession, Prostitute Disfigurement, and Eon on that tour with them. But they have always taken out bands that they've handpicked, and it's bands that that they personally listen to and like and support. And exactly as you say, they've done their best to try and elevate, or at the very least provide an opportunity for other bands to shine. And I've heard, plenty of stories about what they're like to deal with as if you're touring with them, super helpful when it comes to, lending people gear, helping them out, giving them advice. And again, tells you an awful lot about them. I think, from my perspective, kudos to them for being as big as they are. I think Eric Rutan has been probably the smartest recruitment decision that they've made.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
I mean, the guy is a fucking god as far as I'm concerned. But I mean, he is, and what he's injected into the band creatively is incredible. But yeah, it makes you it makes you pleased for their success because of how much they give back.
Yeah,
and there's an awful lot of bands that could learn from that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like like we're talking about exceptions. Like there's so many more bands out there, and I feel like a lot of that doesn't usually even happen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was super disappointed at I'm a huge Pantera fan, and I always will be. And I think Phil Anselmo is one of the best frontmen ever. But I was very disappointed at the bands that they've taken out with them on tour, because knowing that Phil's into a lot of underground stuff, you would think he would have done something that like Glenn Danzig would have done, which is to go, okay, well, I'm going to take, Marduk, and I'm going to take this band, I'm going to take this band. I mean, maybe not Marduk, maybe like a younger band, but like Glenn has always taken bands out with him, that are very different to what his audience is into, but he likes them, so he's going to give them a chance. And you have to imagine that it benefited someone like Behemoth or Marduk massively.
100%.
Go out on tour with him.
I completely agree. Pantera choice is a little strange. Some of it, I mean, some of those bands are on his label, so I mean, there's the connection. But I thought it, in my opinion, I thought he should have taken out like I Hate God and Goat Whore and Crowbar on there at least.
Fuck yes, yeah.
I mean, like not that. I mean, maybe that's happening and we just don't know it. But I'm like, oh, dudes. I was like, take out the boys. I was like, it's like because it's been that whole New Orleans has its own scene.
Mm.
Even though like all those bands don't sound like they all work together, even though they're not like none of those bands sound the same.
Well, they have their own community as well, which is what makes that scene so cool. It's in a weird way, it's kind of what has created the mythos around that scene, is that they're interconnected, but they're all such different bands. And I totally agree with you. The right move would have been to say, hey, Crowbar, Gotor. By the way, Sammy, let's reunite Acid Bath. Why don't you guys come up with this? Imagine that Acid Bath reunion on the Pantera tour. Dude, I'd fucking fly and I'd follow them around like the Grateful Dead.
I think Sammy's down to do the Acid Bath reunion. I just there's other factors in there and needs to make it happen. That's a little more difficult.
Yeah, I touched on that with him when I spoke to him, and I agree with you. I think he would love to do it, but I don't think it's ever going to happen, sadly.
Yeah, Dax is a strange character, to say the least.
Unless they get a different vocalist. So,
dude, I mean, I can't remember one time there was. Sammy was in town for some show and we were hanging out and he was like, I'm leaving. We're going to Austin. I was like, you're playing Austin tomorrow? He's like, yeah, but Dax is playing there tonight at the same clubs. We're going to go in early. I'm going to bug him about trying to fucking play like this Acid Bath shit. I don't know if that actually happened, but that was just like, that was a conversation that happened. I was dying.
Yeah. All right. So next we've got Destroying Angels.
Destroying Angels, this song I wrote when I was taking a bunch of mushrooms. It's like this song's like it's like the lyrics and stuff, and I feel like it made me feel as inspired by like Celine from the Devil's Blood. To go back to that one, but I really like how the dynamic between like kind of the melody at the beginning and the blasts and everything else. Like this is one of my favorite songs on the record.
We then have Whispers That Burn in the Dark.
This one was like when we're talking about heavy metal. They're like, especially like I would say the midsection through the end is just it's all just fucking. It's a real fun song to play. But I was like trying something like because some parts are a little thrashier, some are that, but like the core of this song is a little more heavy metal, and that was like I was like, can we do this? Yeah, we can do this. It works. Like
if Uada can get away with it, then you guys can. That's for sure. Speaking of heavy metal, because I know we're both Wasp fans. What do you make of the ongoing controversy about Blackie Lawless using backing tapes when he's playing live?
I don't know. If you go to the show and the show's good, who gives a fuck? At this point, like I mean, there's some people. If you need it and it's something extra for the show, like, I mean, I don't care. I mean, everybody can sit there and judge and talk shit, but if you went to the show and got drunk and had a good time, like, why do you give a fuck?
Well, that was my take.
Are we questioning Wasp's musical integrity at this point? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, you watch the videos of the shows, and I don't see a single person there going, "Boo! This sucks. I was ripped off. I want my money back."
Everyone's just all, this is the best. I mean, Motley Crue's been playing for millions of people to a way more backing track in the mix for fucking decades, and no one's really, it gets some stuff here and there. Like, just, it would be one thing if you went to the show and you're like, this sucks. But, I don't know, like people, like different artists use backing tracks to emphasize making their sound bigger or whatever, or maybe they need some help, or like, like the Rolling Stones have fucking 20 people on stage when they play. There's all different ways of doing it, but like if you see it and you don't like it, then you could be like, I went to the show, it was backing tracks, this sucked. But if you went to the show and you had a great time and thought it sounded good, like I don't know why motherfuckers want to go off about it.
Well, it's a little bit like Kiss as well, and the flack they've been taking. It's like, you guys realize they're in their 70s.
Yeah. Okay. Also,
how many of your grandparents are going to get on stage and do a 2.5 hour show without any kind of help whatsoever?
I can't imagine, like, because when you're that old, I can't even imagine being like touring when I'm 70. In any form, even if it's on a bus, like or whatever, or like I'm taking a flight. It's still like going up there and playing stuff at that age, like, and you have a little bit of help. I mean, and there's a difference between if it just sounds bad and you're like, obviously, like, whoa, you guys are just like, this is a CD, you know? But when you get to that level and people are like, you know, there's somebody in there trying to make all that stuff work where it's, you know, there's millions of dollars going into those tours.
And it's
So
a
I feel
spectacle
like a
as
lot
well.
of it, I mean, and that's why I don't feel like it's bad intentions. They're just wanting I have people to have the best show they can have for whatever because they're buying tickets.
Yeah. I was just about to say it's a spectacle as well. They, you know, I don't think you can, you know, based on the spectacle, I don't possibly think you can go to a Kiss show and say, "Man, I feel ripped off. I didn't really get what I was." You know, you know, they were just, you know, bunch of old men on stage and, you know, doddering around and, you know, not playing their instruments properly. It's like, you know, they really go to town, especially on this farewell tour.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It sounds like, you know, in theory, you can be like, oh, they have backing tracks. But, you know, like there's also like, I don't feel like what people really understand on backing tracks is there's some people that are just straight lip singing, and that's a little fucked up. But if you just have it, like if you're playing along to a track that is what you're playing and you're playing over it for some extra boost, like, I mean, I don't like, this may be like blasphemy to somebody, but, you know, like you're in your 70s and you're doing that. I don't feel like it's the worst thing you could be doing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you.
If you're, I mean, it would be different if it was like, cool, you're just like someone's just like play, and then you're just walking out there and you're all
Yeah,
like
exactly.
along, like that's fucked up. Like just stop playing. But
No,
having some help is not the end of the world.
no,
I mean,
I totally
like
agree with
on
you.
that same thing, even though it's like different world, the entire metalcore scene is just a fucking track playing, or it's like everything's simulated computer stuff with more backing bass drops and everything else. But I
Well,
guess the
yeah,
same people clown that shit too. So like, I mean, I don't listen to that, and that's a whole nother world. So I don't like it. So I could easily be like, this sucks. So I don't know. That could be as well. If you already
wasn't
don't like
the,
Wasp, you're like, yeah, they suck.
wasn't the guitarist from Born of Osiris or something? I mean, I don't listen to any of that
Mhm.
nonsense, but I'm sure it was Born of Osiris. Like the guitarist was caught doing something shifty with his guitars or something like that. Like I don't know. It was some. I'll need to look into it and remind myself. It was some computerized nonsense that he was putting into his guitars. But I mean, again, I mean, at the end of the day, are you going to start hating on industrial bands because of that? Then, and, you know,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
you use whatever you need to use, whatever tools available to you to get to the end result.
yeah, like Sisters of Mercy doesn't even have a drummer. It's a
Yeah,
drum machine.
exactly.
It even has a name. Like it's like, but I don't know. I guess some people want things to be a certain way, and if it's not, or you know, it's with the internet. If you don't like something, like I feel like anything that happens that could be questionable is a great excuse just to be like, fuck them.
Mm. It's interesting actually. In 2023, you sometimes forget. Like in the 80s and the 90s, there was a lot of gatekeeping, right? Like you had like a certain number of bands that were true, and everything else is trash, you know. And it's
Mhm.
like in the 80s it was particularly bad, 90s it was bad, but it started to relax, and then you know it kind of, because I think there were so many bands and because those communities started to form, it gets less. But you get reminded of how much gatekeeping there still is when you see the reaction to a band like Black Braid, which is demonstrably independent. There is nothing about the band that suggests, hey, this guy, you know, went all out to do like the Britney Spears of black metal. And then you've got people not only talking shit online, they're legitimately offended by the band. They're offended by his existence.
Well, okay, so anytime I like, well, I especially like this goes back to black metal being like whatever it wants to be. It's like it's the last genre I feel like, especially almost, that you can just be like, fuck those motherfuckers, and like,
Yeah.
and that's the way it is. Like those, because Black Braid didn't do anything. They wasn't like, you know, that I would say create all this like the like big backlash he gets. A lot of that's just like, you know, fast success, and then like when you cross into like other people like you that are outside of like say the black metal world, I feel like that's another good like
I
a
was about to
trigger in
say,
that.
verboten, mate. Can't have that.
But it's just like on some of that, when people get so mad and start hating, it's like do you like hate this enough that you're like making memes and talking shit about it all over the internet? Like if you hate it, don't fucking listen to it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the theories that people are throwing around
What?
about this
Give me
thing.
some theories. I don't know. I don't follow
Well,
that.
so one guy I was looking earlier today because I've interviewed John, so I've got him on an upcoming episode,
Hmm.
and I can tell you now, I mean, my experience of him, he's a very sincere guy. You know, there's nothing. I would imagine I'm a reasonably good judge of character. I know someone's bullshitting me. He's not bullshitting me.
Yeah.
We didn't, I didn't do what Rolling Stone or any other fucking trash magazine would do, and try and turn this into some heritage aligned agenda. It was just about music. But that being said, there's a bunch of people that are talking about how he's cashing in on his heritage. It's like he doesn't want to talk about it. Magazines talk about it, and the people that interview him talk about it. The other thing that people were saying is like, he's just rich and he's thrown a bunch of money into it. It's like, where have you ever had access to this guy's personal finances to understand how much money he's got?
Well, that and you can't money can't do certain things.
No,
You can't like stuff going on with him. You can't buy.
no,
Like
I totally agree. 70,000
if you
listeners on
gave me a bunch
Spotify
of
now.
money, I couldn't create that situation that he's in.
Yeah. The only thing that he has in his corner, and you know her, so I'm sure we'll agree on this. He's got an extremely capable publicist.
Yeah, Katie knows exactly how to handle all that stuff, and there's certain people not to give uh like that too, because they're just gonna make it about whatever like exactly what you talk about.
Yeah.
Because now everything has to be about I mean, he's Native American, and he's in a black metal band, and yeah, there's a bunch of that going on right now. But that's not necessarily if that's not the narrative he's throwing out. It's just what comes around him.
And
But
the thing
also,
is,
what's he supposed to do? Not do an interview with fucking the Wall Street Journal? Like, fuck off.
yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I mean, it's black metal, so maybe the appropriate thing would have been just tell him to fuck off. I don't know.
Well, you could raise the argument to say, what would Euronymous have done? what would Varg have done? So,
Let's find out.
yeah, but I've thrown that "let's find out" a couple of times, and I've had a couple of people that have picked it up as well. Anyway, all right. So next up, we've got the All-Seeing Shadows.
Also in Shadows, Dama wrote the song. The special thing with this is it was like we were trying on the chorus when the Cammy sings on this song. That's the high voice you hear in there. Because I was Dama sent me a song a long time ago for something. I don't even know if it was a Necrofier song at the time, and for some reason I could hear just I was like, it needs this. I don't know why, but that's all I could think. So when we got there, I was like, look, I can kind of do this, but what do we think? Because that's a little out there, not out there, but it's different.
Mm.
And he's like, oh, well, we have an amazing singer sitting in here. And I was like, Cammy, and Cammy's like, just chill on the couch. Like, all right, cool. Let me do some stuff, and just comes out and just fucking slaughters it. And it's like she did a couple different harmonies, but I really that song has a lot of big I feel like the atmosphere on the songs with the contrast of say especially when it goes into that blast part and stuff yeah, that song I really like it.
I completely agree. You just reminded me of one thing. So here's an idea for a future Hell's Heroes, just a suggestion for a future Hell's Heroes band. Label mates of yours, Johnny the Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Holy fuck, that new Johnny the Boy album is good. And what Belinda did with her voice on that record, I mean, not that I've had any kind of bias against women in metal or anything. That never, but what I identify with personally is a dude who's pissed off, because I can be a dude who's pissed off. But she has turned in my opinion, one of the best vocal performances that I have heard this year, if not in my entire life. It's fucking astonishing. I don't know how much time you've spent with that record, but it's incredible.
I absolutely have to go back since everything.
Dude, it's brilliant. If they can pull off that music live the way that it sounds, it comes across on record, they could be a very formidable band.
There, when you get especially, I feel like the number one thing with singing is when you can exactly what you just said. When you can create that, that's when you're doing when it's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like because some people like recording songs like is not like just like, hey, check out this song, we did it right, you know. Well, I mean, I guess in some fucking genres that's the thing, but it's like capturing like a time or an energy or whatever you're trying to, you know, like it's like capturing something that's special, like lightning in the bottle, magic, whatever you like, you know, anybody wants like your preferred term of that stuff is, but that's when stuff's special. Like when it's like that's when people get goosebumps or you're like, what the fuck is this? You know, like there's millions of records out there that are done perfect and like who fucking cares? Like capturing that stuff's like where it's really at.
Well, you touch on something interesting there too. It's you know, not just capturing, but recreate. Not maybe not even recreating, but making you feel an amplified version of the emotion that you feel when you hear a particular song or you hear a particular record. Um, there's an awful lot of bands that are great in the studio, but they fall by the wayside when it comes to doing that. I've spoken about this example a few times, but I remember Samoth from Emperor, he's band Zyklon. I loved their records, like really, really like their records. I remember being so disappointed when I saw them play live because that live they were just so utterly boring. And it was like one of those things where you heard the music and you could imagine what they would, you know, what those songs could sound like live if it's played by a band that can convey that, but they just didn't have it. And there's an awful lot of bands that I think are guilty of that, which again, then, you know, you use an example of the old masters. When Tom Araya starts doing Black Magic, I mean, you feel that vibe straight away. The same vibe that you felt when you heard it on Live Undead or when you heard it on Show No Mercy.
Now, so back in the day, I feel like bands were bands. Where now, like a lot of like some bands are still bands, but also I feel a lot of stuff is just studio projects or personal things or whatever, you know, and nothing's wrong with that, except if you don't play music live and that's something you've done forever, either like or it just naturally comes to you because that does exist. There's just, you know, like you're just like, cool, I'm just like I wrote some songs, and you go out and going out to play them is 100,000 times different like in metal than it is in like other things, you know. So like that intensity or just how you playing, or even just people like the people that are playing it gelling together and actually playing live opposed to just creating something in studio is completely different.
You have to have that chemistry on stage as well, and you can see when it's absent. You can clearly see when it's there. You can clearly see when it's absent too.
I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who I was talking about this, but we were talking about we're talking about somebody being wild and this and that, and I was like, yeah, because he's a fucking wild dude. I was like, you know, if you're in a metal band and you haven't done something wrong in your life, or you haven't drank too much or done too many drugs or done something or whatever, you know, like just if you're not like, if that doesn't exist in you, like it's not like you can't, it's not going to come out of you, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
or you can try, like, you know, and you can try to create like a character or do something like that, and that does work. Or you end up like, you know, like Alice Cooper, and it takes over your life because you become that kind of person. But yeah, like I like performing and that stuff coming out live, I feel has a lot to do with like who you are.
Yeah, no, I agree. Well, I mean, a guy we both like very much, Matt Pike.
Yeah,
you know, that dude he's the real deal. I mean, he is literally like when you look at, he's the embodiment of High on Fire's music and lyrics.
Okay, so Pike, I play my old band Venomous Maximus did like a month tour with him, and we were in Seattle, and Pike was like warming up, and he was saying something, and he was talking to me. He's like, I really like how you guys fucking play. He's like, you guys go out there and you like just lay it on the fucking like on the stage, and he's like, just leave it all out there, and it's like, fuck yeah, that was the fucking show. And I was like, thanks, dude. And he was like, let me show you how it's done. And he just like walks out, and I was like, what the fuck? And he just puts on like, I was the best High on Fire show I've ever seen, and it was like in Salt Lake, and it was the smallest show of the tour, and I was just all, you motherfucker. I was like, this is amazing. How did you just do that?
Yeah.
But yeah, like Pike's amazing.
He breathes that rare air of there are guitarists. I've said this a few times. There are guitarists that you can hear years and years and years of dexterous practice. You know, they've been super diligent in learning how to play their instrument extremely well, and they're masters of what they do. They're masters of their craft. Carl Sanders of Nile is a great example of that. You know, he is a true master on the guitar. But where there's that kind of next step up where there are people that might not maybe be as technically as, you know, as strong, astute as what he is, but it's somebody like Matt Pike who literally sounds like he takes his guitar and then music just comes out of whatever he does. There's he doesn't even have to think.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, we were talking about with singing and like conveying how you feel. Like being able to play some technical stuff and do some stuff is completely different than like how like Matt Pike makes you feel when he plays guitar. This might be like way off of like the like same genre, but it's like I think it's got to be a David Allan Coe song, or it's a fucking like goes to Hank Williams or something, and it's like talking about he's like, can you play the blues? Can you make it move? Like, can you like it's can you move people with you playing guitar? Mm-hmm. And like I like the only reason I even brought that up because I always fucking remember that, like because it's just like, can you play when you do music? Like, can you transfer what's in you and make someone else feel it? And that's not easy. And like, and also, and if you don't have it in you, you can't do it. Like Pike's a character, like like he's like there's not people like Matt Pike.
No, and again, he also has this very abstract way of writing lyrics, which I just fucking love. I mean, all his lyrics sound like he's high.
Pike's off on like every conspiracy that's ever existed. If you ever talk, I mean, like mention anything, and he'll be like, "What, that cube that was over fucking Alaska? Let me tell you what I think that shit is." And I'm like, "Oh, here we go." But yeah, he's like, but Pike's like, he's very interesting, and like Pike's a fucking wild man. Like like I countless times had way too much to drink with that fool. But like but that kind of stuff, like when you're that, like you can like if you can get that and transfer that out of you and make people feel that, like that's really creating something, and Pike can do it like 100%.
Well, I mean, you listen to a song like Ethereal, and it's just you'll hear that record. I mean, that song. It's one of those songs where I could hear that song a million times. I'll feel exactly the same every single time I hear it. Like, they always talk about like chasing the high, if you're a junkie or whatever. I sometimes feel it's like that with music too. If there's certain bands, certain songs that you love and you keep chasing that with that band and you never quite get it again, or, you hear a song and then eventually it kind of, it loses its luster. You just don't feel that same excitement. But with High on Fire, there's a couple of songs, but Ethereal for me is one in particular where I could listen to that song. I could listen to that song for the rest of my life on repeat, and I'd still feel the same way about it. Yeah. My dying dad go, fuck this song is awesome.
They were one of those bands like I could watch like whatever. I watched them play for like fucking a month straight, and like never got old. Was never like this. Just every night, like fuck. Like that was amazing. Yeah, like just. Great band.
All right, so then we've got your track 9. We've got Call to the Beyond.
Call to the Beyond. I really like the fucking melodies and everything that are on this song a lot. The rhythm on the beginning of this song really threw me at first because it's a little off. Like this is the part that took me a second to get into it, but once I got into it, it really hooked me. But just especially like the middle stuff where it's like that kind of the melody in the song I just really like, especially it's the melody into the blast and that part, and it's just like fucking like it has like this kind of like you can conduct certain parts of it, like when it's going. And I always love songs that have that feel.
And then you end off the record with probably one of my favorite songs on the record, which is ironic because my favorite song on Prophecies of Eternal Darkness was Plague Requiem, the last track. And that's Burnt by the Sacred Flame. You guys have a knack for finishing off on a real
this song felt like even though like we put it out as the first single, I was like, oh, this song, I feel like this song maybe like I put the most in, I don't know what to say, put the most into it, or it just like it started and it was like one thing, and then it kind of grew, and then it kept growing, and then like it like eventually came into like what it is. But like I remember when I was doing it, I was like, this is fucking rad. I was like, just like I was like, this. There's sometimes I write stuff and I'm like, this is special, and this is one of them. And this also goes back into like the Hellenic like black metal stuff, where it's like there's a lot of the stuff that's kind of like mid-paced and just like that. It's like it's very like Rotting Christ influence, even though there's other blasts and other stuff in there. But yeah, I really like this song.
It was definitely when I heard that single, it was definitely like, okay, there's some serious shit.
This was also like whenever I was writing stuff and I was like, okay, cool, this record's gonna be like, say this, because this is, I would say, kind of sets a lot of the tone for it, because this I think was like the second song at least I started working on this. And it was I was like, okay, I was like, I mean, it just all like I didn't even think about like this one, like I didn't think about it not being like, say, not being a black metal song or not. I was just like, it just kept evolving, and it was this part, and I was like, okay, I really like it felt right like the whole time, and I was like, start to finish, I was like, cool. And then I finally got to the point, and like even when we went in to like start rehearsing this song, it was like we didn't change anything. It was like this, okay, that's the song.
Yeah. So, dude, two topical things I want to talk to you about, and then we'll wrap it up. So, the first thing is, again, something I've mentioned before on the show, and it's a big topic of conversation right now. This business of venues charging or wanting to take merchandising percentages from bands. I don't know how much you guys deal with that at the moment, but the first thought I have around this fucking extortionate practice is I don't get why bands, or I wish bands would kind of just show more solidarity and just outright say we're going to boycott any venues that do this going forward.
Okay, so there is bands that do that, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Okay, because there's because you can get screwed on this. Say like if you're a supporting band, like you're going to support whoever. Let's go with High on Fire. Easy, because we were talking about it. And you get signed up to go on High on Fire. If High on Fire agrees to do merch, like say like in their deal with the club agrees to a merch split, then it's put onto you. And you have nothing to say about it. That's just how it goes. There are things to get around this, which I don't know if I need to go off about this on the air, but yeah, like okay, fuck it. Like I was on that High on Fire tour. I jumped out of the window at the Regency so I didn't have to fucking pay merch. Like, I mean, it's 5 feet, but like I was like this because the guy that was doing it was by the front door, and I was all like, man, fuck this. And like, because I usually just lie and give him $20, but this guy was kind of trying to do some extra shit. So I was like this. I had the dude that was out with us go into the fucking alley, and I was like, push the other boxes out. And then like, I got it. You put it in the trailer, and then I just fucking hopped out the window and we left. I'm probably banned from playing there, or if anybody ever fucking hears this, someone's totally appalled. But like, there's a game on that side where that's usually what I do. I feel like there's certain like clubs like under a certain size shit, like merch cuts are fucking stupid as a band, period. Anyways, it's something it's just been like, I don't know actually how this started in the music industry a long time ago. I always forget to ask, or somebody told me, I just didn't pay fucking attention. But on smaller clubs, I feel like it's completely fucking unnecessary. Like it's different. Like it's a whole production, like in an arena. Like they show up with like a fucking truck full of merch, and then there's 7 different places selling it, and the venue's taking care of it, and all this stuff. Like maybe like
that's fair because you're paying a service charge.
Yeah, but when you're saying like
that I completely get. But when
you're selling your own merch at 1,000 cap club, I don't think you should ever have to pay merch.
No, absolutely not.
But the things like bands can do on this level is if you're headlining, you could just tell your agent, "Look, we're not fucking paying merch, and if the club wants to take a cut, then we can just play somewhere else." I mean, that's the old, like if you're like, but you would have to be headlining to do this. Like if you got put on a tour with someone else and they didn't, then you're just subject to what they like whatever they agree to.
Yeah.
But I feel like now, like to get rid of something like that, like it has to be like it has to start from somewhere with like bands like that. We're like, cool, you want to take merch? We're not going to play your club.
Yeah.
But like it has to come down from bands like that. And sometimes, it's just like you might have to play the club that's not as good, or you don't want to play because of it, or you can just play hardball and maybe they just fold. It's like anything else where it's like it's everything. Like I feel like anything's a negotiation. So like you just make what you want to happen, or if it means that much to you, then do something else, or do what you want to do. But either way, it's still bullshit.
Would you describe yourself as a hardball negotiator?
I try. I mean, I don't know. I make stuff happen, so who cares? I mean, usually, I mean, like what's like I figure out what I want to do, and I try to figure out how to make it happen. So
I'm about to say you strike me as someone who'd be pretty good at it. But I mean, that's the thing with negotiation, right? You have to have a point at which you'll walk away, or it's not a negotiation. You're just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, but I feel like it's something like at least like because I know nobody wants to do it. It's just like if it means that much to you, then tell your management and your agent, and then try to be like push. That's what you want. I mean, okay, so if Necrofier was doing a tour and we were selling 800 tickets a tour, I'd be like, cool. I'd be like, this is what we're shooting for, and we're not paying merch anywhere. If they're going to take merch, then just put it somewhere else and tell them straight up. And there's some clubs that can't, like, it's just maybe that's like they're mandated by something, or Live Nation has a bunch of stuff where they created their own merch company. So then it's like, oh, it's a different thing. Which is just more bullshit from Live Nation. But it's something you can try, or maybe you just get it cut down where it's super minimal.
Or you just jump out the window.
The merch game is like, I feel like for years, instead of people doing that, they just scam the venue, which is fine too. It's all part of like the merch game of mystery of whatever. Like, oh no, we only sold this much merch. Here's the money, there's a bunch of different ways to do this.
The thing for me, what makes it egregious is you're the name drawing people to the club. So all the booze that's being bought, that the money of which is going into the club's bottom line, is thanks to the band or thanks to the bands.
Yeah.
Where do they get off then saying, well, we're going to take, because they're already taking part of the door. Where do they get off saying we're going to dip our hand into your pocket elsewhere?
Well, okay, so on some of this, like just from like the opposite view of this, like on some stuff, like some bands are too expensive, and maybe you lose money on the band and the expenses. Like you're not going to cover the band and the expenses. So, and that's where a lot of stuff is nowadays with promoters, where they're only making money off ticket rebates and merch in the bar. So it's just like there's, it's kind of like, here's how much money there is, and it's like, well, if you get some more of this, and then this is this, and it's just moving around.
Yeah.
It's a stupid practice anyways, but it's just like everything else where everyone's trying to make money somewhere, and it just gets squeezed out somewhere else.
Yeah. Now, the next topical point to raise is on the topic of solidarity. Did you see this update with, or let's backtrack. So did you see what happened with the Ace of Cups and Panzerfaust?
I did not. I saw that they moved the venue, but I didn't see anything else.
Well, this shit venue in Columbus, Ohio, called the Ace of Cups, effectively posted a comment or a statement saying, they heard from someone that Panzerfaust are aligned to the far right and have white supremacist sympathies, and so therefore they removed them from the venue immediately. I don't know if this was the exact circumstance, but the impression I got was that Panzerfaust are basically at the venue ready to play, and they're like, no, you're not playing anymore because someone told us you're Nazis.
Yeah.
And so Panzerfaust did, I think, exactly the right thing, and they posted something to the effect of, we're going to take legal action against them. We're not Nazis. If you want to accuse us of being Nazis, produce evidence. There is no evidence. Fuck off, basically. Blueprint for exactly how bands need to deal with this shit.
I don't like. Okay, so on the part that sucks is they're probably just screwed out of that show. The amount of money and time chasing after a venue for stuff like that is, time and lawyers and stuff is probably insane. It's just obscene. Hopefully, hopefully it works out in that direction. But I feel like a lot of these clubs get like pushed into some shit where it's like, that sounds like what you just described. That's how it went down. Just sounds like they're insane. Because honestly, like somebody, like depending on what the band is, like people will email the clubs. But this, like, it gets like, say, like Horno when they came to America a couple of years ago, it was like this Hands Across America for Horno or Nazis thing. So what those people do is they call the club, and then they all not only be like, hey, there's Nazis playing here. When it doesn't get canceled, then they're like, we're going to blow up your club. We're going to do this. And it becomes just the same, it's like some crazy shit where they just attack the club. So a lot of clubs, when they start getting Nazi complaints like that and threats, they just fucking cancel the show.
Mm-hmm. Well, so
that's what they realize, that they can't just talk shit to the bands, because people are like, oh yeah, they're a Nazi band. And you're like, this, fuck off. We're still going to the show. So then they're like, if they somehow, I guess it went to that where if they attack the club and do something that way, then maybe something will happen. And that's why you see, that's why some shows get canceled. At least that's
that's in part what's happened with Nas of Eccles as well, which is also equally ridiculous. But what is good is Uada was they basically, instead of playing at the club, they changed the venue. They changed the venue of the show and basically said, we're showing solidarity with the guys from Panzer.
Okay, so that's like I feel like the best way to do it. It's like, hey, if you guys want to do this and fuck around, then just like, if like our community sees it, they're like, just don't fucking play there. Because it's like what happened to that? There was some death metal show in Fort Worth where the Bouncers did something like stole Terror's mic or did something, and then I don't remember the exact situation, other than there was some overzealous bouncers at some show, and they're like, fuck hardcore shows, fuck death metal and all this shit. So like fucking like all the fucking shows that were at the place, just they pulled every show from the venue.
Oh yeah, so it says one security guard during Terror's opening set for the Black Dahlia murder didn't quite get hardcore as a genre. The show took place on March 5 at the Ridglia Theater in Fort Worth, Texas, where one security guard was tossing fans trying to get on stage to sing along, which during like Dream Theater or something would make sense, but this is hardcore, getting on stage to sing along and dive is the whole thing. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, like on some of this stuff, like, not defending the security guard, but if you don't know what's going on, then like, yeah, you're like, what the fuck? Or just,
especially at a terror show.
Yeah. I mean, it's a terror show. Like, I mean, I feel like at least it shows as big, someone's getting prepped about what's going on, but there's a certain level of like, just like, if that's like, if some people don't want that. So then it's just like, don't book shit like that. Like, cause that's what happens at those shows.
Yeah.
But and also there's like security guards that are overzealous, be like, you're not allowed to do this, like whatever. Like they had a bad time in high school and everybody pushed them around. So then like there's security guards, they're gonna treat you like shit.
They're gonna take it out on everybody now.
Yeah, because it's but yeah, that's on stuff like that. Like basically if clubs do dumb shit, it's just like just boycott the fucking club. Like, or if you don't like somebody, just don't talk about them and the shit will just disappear rather than just, do stuff that will actually hurt them, opposed to like if they're going to do stuff like that, not opposed to, but, like Ace of Cups, like Uada canceling on Ace of Cups lost them money because they did the other thing, so that directly affects them, and I feel like that's a really good solution to like if people want to just arbitrarily cancel shows because of whatever.
Their stock definitely climbed in my books. I'm still not, I've said I need to see them live potentially to appreciate their music, because their music still isn't quite my vibe. But their stock as as just an entity, they definitely climbed.
Which
so what's
you're talking about? Uada?
Was that sorry?
Who are you talking about? Uada?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean Panzerfaust, that's 100% my vibe. Okay. So the what's next for you guys now? I mean, you finished the Midnight tour. Have you guys got anything lined up next?
We're doing we have like a hometown release show. We don't usually play Houston too often, like as we only play Houston like 2 or 3 times a year anyways. We haven't headlined in like a year and a half, so excited about that. After that, I think we're gonna do some regional shows in Texas in October, and trying to figure out some more tour stuff. I don't know. We're like kind of picky about how we tour. Not necessarily like everything has to, like the stars have to align a certain way, but it's like like we're older. I'd rather only tour with bands that I actually like and like as people, or or something is a great opportunity. It doesn't have to be the biggest thing in the world, but but like even Midnight. Like Midnight's a great tour, but like I've known the dudes at Midnight forever, and they're fucking great people. Like I would love, I've generally had a great time hanging out with them for a couple weeks. And like that's kind of thing. So like there's already some stuff on the books, or that should be coming up for the spring that we're working on. That I think is going to probably happen, some things like that. But I don't know about for the rest of the year. I think it's gonna be a couple like some regional stuff in Texas and maybe like in the Gulf Coast, and like leave it at that kind of thing.
Do you think you guys could make it over to Europe at some point?
I'm working on it. I'm just trying to figure like since getting there is a little more much than it's a lot more difficult. Just like financially, like something's going to happen. I just got to figure it out. Hopefully next year. It's basically we just have to team up with like either the right band or just like get us like on a festival like 1 or 2, so we can be like, okay, cool, we're doing this. We'll do these things between those things with this band. Okay, let's go. But like that, it isn't networked out at the moment yet.
I see the ideal being Necrofier, Tombs, Cloak, Season of Mist, triple feature.
That would be good. I kept telling Sokka, so I'm like, bro, take us to Europe. And he's
about to say, Brother Christ.
I was like, dude, there's no band we fit better with in Europe, like, or in general, touring on a lot of stuff than you guys. And he's like, yeah, we'll talk. So maybe that happens. Who knows?
Awesome. My Brand, thank you so much for your time. Great catching up with you as always. And once again, man, such a great job on this record. And I really do mean it when I say I think this is like one of those albums where you can kind of feel this is the band taking the next step, like moving up to the next tier. And it's going to be well deserved. So,
hell yeah, I think so.
Awesome. All right, brother. Take care of yourself. Bye bye. I am very confident you will all agree that is a goddamn fantastic tune. It's called Forbidden Light of the Black Moon. It is taken from the album Burning Shadows in the Southern Night by Necrofier, their second record. Like I said a couple of weeks ago when I first reviewed the album, this is, in my opinion, their step up to the next tier. Very definitely so. It's available right now on Season of Mist, and you can check it out if you want to go ahead and buy it. I will post a link to their Bandcamp in the description to the podcast. A massive thank you to Christian for coming on the podcast, as always. What a blast catching up with him. And we spoke afterwards. I am definitely going to try and make Hell's Heroes 2024 a reality. It's very near to my birthday. There are some fucking fantastic bands playing there. So if you're in the Houston area, who knows? Next year we might be sharing a slab of beef ribs and a beer. So, right, my friends, if you have ever paid for an NFT to hand off to one of these thoughts doing the old NFC trend, or NPC trend, I should say, on TikTok, then it's time for you to get to step in, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
All right, my friends, as always, we kick off the news odyssey on metalstorm.net, the best metal news website on the face of the earth. The first headline, Archspire reveal Bleed the Future video. After a successful crowdfunding campaign, you can now watch the disgusting, uproarious, and out-of-this-world expensive music video for Bleed the Future. It is taken from Archspire's Juno Award-winning album of the same name, which was released in October 2021 via Season of Mist. Not an album I spent a huge amount of time with, but I know it landed very positively with many of you. And a lot of work went into making this record as successful as it turned out to be, especially by my good friend Katie Irizarry. So let's check out the video. Looking very cinematic so far. I may skip ahead just a tad because it looks like we're going to be dealing with and 45 seconds in, the intro continues, so let's jump ahead a bit more. Well, so far the song is okay. The music video, for those of you watching this on YouTube, pretty impressively shot. It's kind of got that Amazon Prime sheen. They seem to have a specific kind of color palette that they prefer with all of their shows. Like if you watch a made for Amazon Prime show like Bosch, it kind of has that specific feel to it, which I think this has got. I wouldn't be surprised if whoever shot this has been involved in at least something in and around that orbit as well. But yeah, I mean, it's all right. Again, like I've said before, I don't really see the point in music videos. The days of people just sitting back and watching a bunch of music videos back to back. Maybe I move in different circles, but it's not really something that it doesn't sound in any way appealing to me. All right, Rebellion have announced a new studio album release. That's exciting stuff. It says here on September the 22nd, 2022, death metal operatives Rebellion will unleash their fourth studio album entitled Under the Sign of Rebellion. The 11-piece outing was recorded during the summer of 2021 at RR44 Studio by Rafael Sequeira and mastered by Jander Antunes. The cover artwork was created by Sebastian Suarez. Cover artwork looks pretty decent. No song, unfortunately. But back when, I can't remember exactly who it was from Rebellion who passed away. We did talk about it on the podcast, and I played a track as like my outro song. Fucking brilliant band. Really, really underappreciated. So I'm glad to see that they have not, they've not let the tragedy in the band, dampen their enthusiasm for things going forward. So anyways, next up, we've got Imperial Triumphant, another cover song. They have premiered a cover of A Night in Tunisia. It says here, Imperial Triumphant have returned with another cover after Radiohead's Paranoid Android. This time they present their take on the 1940s jazz standard, A Night in Tunisia by Dizzy Gillespie. Check it out below. That Paranoid Android cover wasn't bad. It was certainly a hell of a lot better than I expected. But jazz, I must say, I have never, and I don't think I ever will be a fan of jazz. I don't give a shit who's covering it. It's just not for me whatsoever. I would say if we had to do a stack ranking of music genres that I would rather spend my time listening to, I can think of at least 15. Between poker and jazz, it's a tough one. But anyway, I'm open-minded. Imperial Triumphant have surprised me once, so let's hear what they can do with a Dizzy Gillespie classic. That's my verdict. This is music for grown men with outsized Funko Pop collections who still watch Harry Potter on an annual basis. It is absolutely fucking terrible. I can appreciate the technicality of what they've done there. I mean, that bassist in particular, very, very good. But that is, without a shadow of a doubt, not my music, not my cup of tea whatsoever. Right, Daath have revealed a cover for Morbid Angel's track Where the Slime Live. While currently recording material for their comeback album, Daath present a cover for Morbid Angel's track Where the Slime Live. Originally released on the Domination record in 1995, this cover also features a guest solo from David Davidson of Revocation. Guitarist A.L. Levi had this to say about the cover. It's funny to say this because Where the Slime Live is a total classic, but I've been feeling like people have not been giving Trey and Co. their due for their massive impact they've had on the evolution of metal. Not that our version of this song is going to change the world, but if any Morbid Angel song deserves the modern treatment, it's this one. Everything about it more than holds up, and showcasing it in this fashion really illuminates how ahead of their time they were. I hope you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed learning and interpreting this banger of a song. I don't think that this song needed a cover whatsoever. I'm just going to put that, out there from the get-go. And I would also disagree with him that people aren't giving Trey and Co. their due for the impact that they had on metal. I mean, maybe mainstream bullshit magazines, or the Metal Hammers or Corrap magazines of this world aren't doing so. But there's an awful lot of love for Morbid Angel. And I would say Morbid Angel is one of those bands that probably still inspire as much, if not more, passion than many of the genre classics. And that was evident by the response to, some of the debate that we had around Morbid Angel on last week's episode with the Mikes, Hill, and Scondado. Especially when it came to the differences between Steve Tucker and David Vincent, and also, people's thoughts on Blessed Are the Sick. But yeah, I'm going into this one very skeptical because, like I said, if ever there was a song that didn't need to be covered, it's this. I mean, it's still a song I go back to, a fair amount. When Domination came out, I remember just absolutely fucking flipping. I loved it. To me, it was just a total life-changing, game-changing record. Over time, I have gone on to like other albums more. But when it came out initially, I was about, I think, 15 years old. It was just, to me, the best of the best. Anyways, let's hear what Daath's take on a classic sounds like. I mean, just about the only thing that's different about this cover so far is that they play it in a different key. I mean, I don't feel like they're stamping down their own personality on the song whatsoever. They're using the exact same vocal effects that David Vincent used on the original. I mean, the exact same vocal lines. I'm not saying, reinterpret the whole thing, but we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. The best covers are ones where there's at least something that gives away the fact that it is, a different band doing the song. In an ideal world, the very best covers are ones where there is a degree of reinterpretation. They don't go too crazy. The spirit of the song is still kept intact. But there's definitely there's definitely them making the song their own. They're not making the song their own. Yeah, this is just them basically doing karaoke. But the difference is they're playing all the instruments. It's not bad, but it just doesn't inspire anything in me. There's absolutely no reason why you would listen to this instead of listening to the original. And like I said, from my perspective, from a production-wise, performance-wise, the original still holds up. And whenever I hear the song, I always think to the music video with David Vincent standing proudly with his ECW T-shirt, which those were great days. But yeah, not my cup of tea. That's a definite thumbs down for me. All right, next up, Sylosis have revealed a video for the title track of their upcoming album. UK Metal Machine Sylosis just unveiled the title track of their forthcoming album, A Sign of Things to Come, due out on September the 8th, 2023 via Nuclear Blast Records. The song speaks from Josh Middleton's position as a new father and his fears of the world that his children will one day inherit. Interesting segue about something we're going to talk about in just a second. Josh comments, a new sign of things to come is a declaration of dismay towards the modern world. It's about the anxiety of what the future holds and the feeling of division in a society where everyone is pitted against each other. This was the last song to be written for the album. It quickly became apparent that this was going to be one of the biggest, most anthemic songs on the record.
What's it worth versus gold? I tried to beg for mine.
I don't think that's too bad. I notice a gentleman named Alex F, Slick Dick Rick, on the comments below, saying all of the released tracks have been super underwhelming, and this one kills any anticipation I had for this album. I don't think it's bad. And actually, I can, maybe it's because I can relate to the subject matter. You know, if you're a parent right now, you must be fucking shitting yourself with some of the stuff that you're seeing going on in the world, and some of the things that have invaded the culture. You know, and it is absolutely terrifying. So, you know, I can relate to that. A reminder once again, if you know, people forget, Silosis's debut record, Conclusion of an Age, which they put out back in 2008, was fucking spectacular. I think that was such a criminally overlooked album. I don't hear enough people talking about it nowadays. Really, really, really good. There was a lot of hype around the band, I think around their second record or maybe their third, but that album to me was like, their first record was definitely their best. It is superior to what we've just heard now as well, I should say. But yeah, I'm not hating this at all. I mean, that chorus that we heard there is very, I mean, it's very accessible. You can imagine that. There's part of me that almost wants to say that sounds slightly Linkin Park-esque, and that is a band I can't fucking stand. I think what salvages it is that melody, for me at least. I think the melody is what makes it, you know, it takes it from something that would just have been a load of fucking crap that would, you know, sit with the Linkin Parks and the Papa Roaches and you know, stuff that I find unbearable. And as I said, it makes it more listenable. So I get that folks aren't all gonna like this. You know, if you creamed your shorts at the idea of old school death metal that we were discussing last week, then maybe not for you, this, but yeah, like I said, I don't mind it. Now, I spoke jokingly at the introduction of this news rant about the NPC trend that has now invaded TikTok. And of course, TikTok brought us such other gems as the Tide Pod Challenge, where we all had to hold hands across the nation for youth who had been tricked into downing laundry detergent, and some of them unfortunately succumbed to the inevitable injuries that it caused them. This NPC trend, look, at the best of times, I don't have a huge amount of faith in humanity. But when I when I thought that literally there was no further that the barrel could be scraped, I stand corrected, and you're about to find out why. Now, you guys are going to have more of an idea of this if you're watching this on YouTube. The sounds alone should appropriately horrify you if you are listening to this on Spotify or wherever else. The gist of this is thus. So, mostly sex workers, female sex workers, are getting an army of simps to buy TikTok tokens, NFTs, in the shape of cartoon hot dogs and cartoon ice creams and, you know, other food. And they are then paying these women during a live stream with these tokens, and the women are making sounds as though they're like an NPC in a computer game. A little bit like Candy Crush or something fucking equally idiotic. But yeah, you're about to hear exactly what I'm talking about. This is a taste of what one of these live streams typically entail.
Marshmallow. Crunchy corn, yum! Kitty paws. Pumpkin, yum!
It's fucking staggering. It is absolutely fucking insane to me that we're society is degenerated to such a place where people are actually making money out of that. And the video that I saw suggested that some of these women are making as much as $7,000 per stream. Now, the thing is, I actually, in a way, I don't blame them for doing this. If I could make $7,000, for sitting here, making sounds as I chew on imaginary cartoon food, I would go for it as well. What worries me is, can you imagine the state of a man who pays for that bullshit? Like, where are these people even getting money from? They shouldn't be gainful. I mean, number one, they cannot possibly be gainfully employed. And if they are, what do they do for a living? Because that's also troubling. How can you function normally in society and then you come home, unzip your trousers and go, right, time to watch Cherry Crush, which is the name of that girl, chew on some cartoon candy and make sounds. It's fucking mind-blowing to me. And the thing that was equally mind-blowing is that a bunch of, the usual outlets, the Rolling Stone, I think MSNBC, CNN, and a bunch of other trash websites that, will talk down to us about politics and the vaccine and, everything else under the sun. They were very quick to jump on this and say it's a wonderful thing. It's an opportunity for people to just really relax and clear their minds. Absolutely fucking insane. Back to Josh's point from Silosis about being, worried about what the future holds for your kids. Can you imagine what the world's going to be like in 20 years if we continue down the same trajectory? This is the kind of shit that makes the masturbation channel of the movie Idiocracy seem like highbrow art. I mean, we're literally 10, I would say max 10 years away if you stick with the Idiocracy comparison to that movie that they have right at the beginning of the film that supposedly won all the Oscars in, I don't know, 2145 or whichever year that movie plays or is meant to be based in, which is like somebody's ass and they're just farting for the entire film. That we're 10 years away from that at a maximum, based on this nonsense. It's nuts, absolutely fucking nuts. But if you want to see the rest of that clip that I just showed you, head over to Paul Joseph Watson's YouTube channel. He's got a whole big thing about it, and it's simultaneously horrifying and cringeworthy and fucking hysterical. But yeah. Anywho, moving on. Melancholia are a Melbourne-based blackened deathcore group who have shared the video for Hiss Through Rotten Teeth, directed by the great Carl Steller. I don't know who he is, but anyways, I always laugh about on Metal Storm, they always highlight the director's name like it's this big deal. We all need to know who Carl Steller is. But anyways, it's the title track from the band's debut album, which was released on April the 21st via Grayscale Records and Nuclear Blast Records, and you can watch it down below. Let's see what it sounds like. I have no idea what Melancholia sounds like. I didn't even know that they'd been signed to Nuclear Blast. But we're about to lift the lid off the mystery of what they sound like. I like that very, very much. Gotta say. We've now had a couple of weeks on the go where I've really been surprised by bands they are describing as deathcore. I wouldn't necessarily I mean, maybe you would describe that as deathcore, but it's a little more than the typical old chug, fucking bullshit deathcore that we've heard so many times, and they're just so predictable. I like the riff here. The melody is really, really cool. I think the vocals really suit. The treatment they did for this track on this music video is decent as well. I mean, usual tropes. I mean, I say usual because it's these were probably usual in the 1990s. People spilling wine, sitting around looking freaky in a bathtub, that sort of thing. But pretty cool scenery. It says here the song always made us feel low, dreary, and woeful, not quite awake and not quite dreaming, stuck in a horrible limbo somewhere between. Tells vocalist Alex Hill. The video represents that visually with low lighting and moody red hotel scenery, like a come down from the worst night of your life. The title track is the breaking point for the album's main character and the realization that there is nowhere to go but low. This is, I wouldn't say necessarily top notch, but they deserve at least 1.5 thumbs up for that, and I definitely am going to have to check out the rest of that album. By the way, as I search for the next headline for us to read, one thing that I've noticed, and something about the hotel reminded me of this. I don't know whether you guys have picked this up, but what the fuck is with all the people running around wearing big gold-rimmed Jeffrey Dahmer-style glasses? I've now recently, as you guys can see, I've got myself a pair of glasses. And I, wear them intermittently with the contact lenses. But anyways, one thing I didn't think of is, as I was selecting what frames to wear, is, hey, I recently watched that show on Netflix, Dahmer. He looks pretty cool. I think I should get a pair of glasses that look exactly like his. And I see it with women. I see it with guys. I find it fucking befuddling. I just, I can't figure out what on earth would get you to wear something like that. I mean, that was the kind of shit that I wore when I first wore glasses back in the late 80s. And it was shameful. I felt like I had to hide my face. Anyways, Blut Aus Nord, new song online. Much buzz and hype about this, particularly from my friend Marco of Stellar Master Elite. Queen of the Dead Dimension, a second shadow composition from Blut Aus Nord's forthcoming studio album Disharmonian Nahab, is now available for streaming below. The album will be released on CD, vinyl, tape, and digital, along with merchandising on August the 25th via Deborah Morty Productions. That first single, not quite as impactful as the stuff that they put out for the previous record. Still good, but I'm waiting for the song that's going to really, really fill me with excitement about this record. So, will Queen of the Dead Dimension be it? Let's find out. This really is like you're slowly drifting off into the fiery pits of hell listening to this. I mean, it is so fucking dark and so oppressive. And with those voices, I mean, obviously they don't have really vocals. Certainly they haven't had vocals, proper vocal lines on the last two Blut Aus Nord records. It's just these swirling, ghostly, spectral voices going all over the place, and then this majorly discordant, or discordant guitar playing in this song, over, kind of being layered over drums that feel like they're about to get going and then just never do. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely challenging music. This is not something that just a one quick, 1-2 minute listen is going to be able to have you decide on properly. You guys know how excited I was about that that first single they put out from the previous record. This doesn't have the same impact on me as that record or that song did. But I'm becoming more intrigued by this record's place in whatever the overall concept is that they're trying to convey here. Like, this definitely feels like the aftermath of whatever was on the previous record. Whatever was on the previous record, nightmare, hellishness. This is like the next step. You are now well and fully immersed, ensconced in the flames of torment. So yeah, very good, very, very good. I was about to say pretty good, but it's very good. I'm going to go back to it. We're going to give it another 60 seconds. Whoa, that is fucking genius. Absolute genius. I mean, that's where some of that much needed oomph, that power is coming in. That sounds absolutely, utterly sensational. That is top notch. No two ways about it. That is absolutely top notch. As I'm listening to this, one of the things that comes to mind is I bet you Vince Vaughn saw one of Cherry Crush's NPC TikTok videos and hence wrote the song. Because that's the kind of darkness I see in my mind when I think of the future of humanity. And I see that nonsense. This song evokes the same imagery. And also fittingly titled, Queen of the Dead Dimension. But yeah, very good. By the way, I read on their Facebook page, it is apparently Deborah Morty's 20th anniversary this year. So happy anniversary to them in advance. What a fucking sensational label. I mean, in terms of a high quality roster, Ecclese, the Amenta, Blut Aus Nord, I mean, they continually put out just phenomenal bands. They have a real integrity. There's a real class to everything that they do. And all the releases that they put out, generally speaking, are almost always worth checking out. Some of them I've not liked so much. But yeah, just a fantastic label. And if they do watch this, hopefully they understand the sentiment that I'm trying to convey here. Deicide announced new album and label. This was pretty interesting. So I'll quickly read the article. It says, yeah, US death metal legends Deicide have announced a one-album deal with new record label Reigning Phoenix Music. The band is currently finishing work on their new album, which will be called Banished by Sin. It will be their first with guitarist Taylor Nordberg of Inhuman Condition, formerly of Massacre. Glenn Benton said, "With great pleasure and after several years of debate and consideration, I wish to announce the signing of a historic one-album deal with the newly formed RPM for the development and marketing of the new Deicide album, Banished by Sin. We look forward to working with all the talented hand-picked individuals that create RPM music and adding our latest accompaniment to the Deicide catalog." RPM's Gerardo Martinez commented, "We would like to welcome the Satan Spawns Deicide to RPM, and we cannot wait to release the very fitting new 13th chapter of their very successful and storied career. Many of us grew up in the early death metal years, and Deicide was in many people's soundtracks. As for me, I ended up in the principal's office in high school for wearing the original Legion shirt, as the backprint was dangerous and controversial. Let's bring some of that back." I've no idea who Gerardo Martinez is, but I am curious about this comment that Glenn has made about hand-picked individuals at this record label. I mean, the other thing that I'm thinking about, which I think is actually pretty goddamn cool, if it's been done by design, that they're trying to help get this record label on the map, and that's why they signed with them, then I think that is awesome. Because it's never a bad thing to to get a decent record label up and running, and to give people that want to do something interesting a real kind of proper run of it, or give them the runway to succeed. And certainly, if you're one of the biggest bands in death metal and you're signing with a new record label or a fledgling label like this, you're certainly doing that. I'm just going on Metal Archives right now, and it seems as though they have nobody on their roster aside from Deicide right now. I'll do some investigation, friends, and if anybody knows anything, drop me a note. But yeah, interesting decision. Whether the record's going to be any good is a different matter altogether. I mean, when it comes to Deicide albums, I thought Overtures of Blasphemy had its moments. In the Minds of Evil also had its moments. To Hell with God, same. But they've not really released something that I've thought has been consistently from start to finish great. I did quite like Till Death Do Us Part, and I really, really liked The Stench of Redemption. But I would say the last great Deicide record, like truly great Deicide record, was The Stench of Redemption. At least in my opinion. They've had their moments since then, but the one I would want to go back to if it weren't the first 3 albums, it would be Stench. Okie doke. Harm's Way, new album coming in September. Harm's Way are proud to finally announce that their new album Common Suffering will be released on September the 29th, 2023 via Metal Blade Records. It was recorded and produced by Will Yip and mastered at Sterling Sound. The video for the track Silent Wolf is available for streaming below. I know a couple of people who have been flipping out about this, so I am curious to hear what it sounds like. Lots of aggression, cool riffing. Harm's Way they're not the world's most unpredictable band, but I do feel like they're trying to do something just maybe a little bit different to what they did with their previous records here. It's good weightlifting music. I think that's probably the gist of it. Would I listen to this? If I'm interested in listening to something serious, probably not. But if I'm in the gym and I'm going for those PRs, I will definitely. There's definitely something I would give. I'd give maybe not pride of place, but it would be on the playlist. So yeah, I'm not hating that whatsoever. Let's give it another 60 seconds. I'll tell you what, speaking of weightlifting music, if anyone can answer to me when Botch is going to be releasing another track, that last one that they put out, good God, it's fucking brilliant. An absolute mainstay on my gym playlist. All right, we're going to do one more, and then we'll head over to We Are the Pit. We might even check out one or two things on the Democrats' Guide to Rock Music today. Uada reveal new track. Another opportunity to convince me that I might like their music. I will say this, and obviously Christian and I touched on it during our conversation, but these men's stock has risen with me since they decided to show solidarity with their brothers in Panzerfaust. I now understand, and I may be corrected on this, but I've heard rumors that Cloak have done the same thing, which is very cool. And I think that more bands should do it, as Christian and I said. You know, if a venue starts pulling this kind of shit, bands should just say, fine, you accuse our bros of things that you have no evidence of, then you don't deserve to do business with us. So kudos to Uada for standing up to that dog shit. And it says here, The Dark Winter is the second single track from Crepuscule Natura, the fourth album of US melodic black metal band Uada, which is set to be released on September the 8th, 2023 through Eisenwald. The song will be made available on all streaming services this Friday, July 21st. You can listen to it through the YouTube player below. They do like themselves a long intro, don't they? I mean, it's better than the last track. I'll definitely give them that. It's quite catchy. It does lack the severity that I prefer in black metal, but it's definitely something that I may be more inclined to want to hear more of rather than that previous track that I heard. And again, it comes back to what I said, I think the first time I listened to them on this segment. Based on everything I've heard, they sound like a band that you definitely need to hear live. And some bands just are like that, right? It's just much harder for the band to recreate what they do on stage in the studio. Maybe that's the case with Uada. I don't know. I've never seen them play. I am going to jump to minute 4 of a 8-minute song. And let's hear where we've gotten up to by this point. Not bad. Still not blown away. So if there's a Uada song that's going to blow me away, leave it in the comments. Tell me what I need to go and listen to, because I know many of you like this band very much. As I said, this is a lot better than the first single, so let's put it that way. By the way, Uada involved in a big news story. I would say for me personally, it's not really for me personally, but I think it's worth us all celebrating and taking a moment to talk about. So obviously 2 episodes ago, my friend Katie from formerly of Season of Mist, now obviously with Suspiria PR, announced that she would be representing Uada. Another band who she will be representing are the Mighty Mayhem. So that was announced today, and I just want to say from me to her, congratulations. It is absolutely well-deserved. Excellence always seeks out excellence. And, you know, Mayhem are amongst the very best of the best, so they should be working with the very best of the best. And from my perspective, I think there is nobody better at the job that she does than Katie Irizarry in the industry that I've come across. And I've come across many. So, congratulations to her. First bit of news around Mayhem in a while, actually, is that they're going to be releasing a live album called Demonic Rites in September. Norwegian black metal pioneers, it says here, will release a live album, Demonic Rites, on September the 15th via Century Media Records. The record is a comprehensive look at the legendary band's chaotic and intense performances from various cities from all over the world from the last 2 years. The album promises to be a thrilling sonic journey for fans and a testament to Mayhem's unparalleled live prowess. Bizarrely, we've got a geo-targeted video of that fucking nerd, Anthony or Andrew Fontano from the Needle Drop. Absolute douchebag. But going through the what was the set list, or at least the songs they've included, yeah, pretty interesting. Falsified and Hated, To Daemonium, Malum, one of the best Mayhem songs ever. Bad Blood, My Death, Symbols of Blood Swords, Voices Up Altar, genius. Freezing Moon, fucking genius. Death Crush, Chainsaw Gutsfuck. So pretty meaty track list. And they also have a Mayhem live video here. So let's give that a quick gander. This opening riff that is about to kick in here is so fucking awesome, and it is so well suited to when they play live. When I saw them, when this part kicked in, it is just pure occult black magic worming its way into the very core of your soul. Fucking fantastic. I want to jump to the end of the song because I want to hear whether Attila pulls off those live vocals or those clean vocals live. I mean, clearly, man is not using backing tracks because that vocal line or the vocal lines he's done, I mean, they're roughly the same as on album, but they sound very different. Also, song is slightly sped up just by a whisker, I noticed, but sounding absolutely badass in my opinion. Fantastic. Beyond top-notch. I don't know whether... I mean, most of you that are watching this probably watched the interview that I did with Ghoul many, many moons ago now. I think it was episode 40 of the podcast, or episode 45. And the very interesting little fact that he threw out about that particular part of the song, and I mentioned it for those of you guys that haven't seen the interview, is that was totally improvised. Apparently, Attila just walked into the studio and just did it. Which makes me like it even more. Okay, next up we've got news about Blackie Lawless cancelling the US Wasp tour due to extensive back injuries, which is shitty news. Because of the extensive back injuries suffered by Blackie Lawless during the European leg of Wasp's 40th anniversary tour, the band previously announced the 2023 US tour has been cancelled and will be rescheduled for spring 2024. Tickets and VIP packages can be refunded at the point of purchase. Lawless comments, the extent of the trauma I endured on the 2023 European tour was far greater than originally diagnosed, and surgery will now be needed to correct the problem. In addition to the original herniated disc, as that tour continued, a second disc became herniated. Upon returning home, a second MRI also revealed a broken vertebrae into my lower back. I've been fortunate to work with the best specialists in the US, and I've been in intensive rehab since we got home. It's going well, but the damage was pretty extensive, and all the doctors agree moving the tour a few months back will be the safest thing. It's all been as a result of an injury that happened several years ago. I'm working my butt off to get back and ready, and I'll be riding my mic stand, nicknamed Elvis, bigger and badder than ever. If the torture never stops, then the 40th never stops. So hopefully he feels better very, very soon. At his age, definitely need to take care of his health, and especially your back, because you just don't bounce back from this shit as quickly as you should. I'm actually sorry that I didn't catch them when they were in the UK, but so be it. 6 Feet Under are working on a killer new studio album. Things are coming together awesome. Way better than all that other fake death metal shit, says Chris Barnes. According to 6 Feet Under singer Chris Barnes, drummer Marco Pitruzella has finished recording the drum parts for the band's next studio album. 6 Feet Under guitarist Jack Owen will be tracking the rhythm guitar in a couple of weeks. Things are coming together awesome. Some real killer songs on this album. It will definitely satisfy all our SFU fans' appetite. # pure death metal. Here's a question. After that last train wreck that they released, is there anybody that still has any love left for this band? At least, like, in terms of being excited about new music that they might be putting out. Like, who actually heard that last fucking train smash and thought that it was any good? And I will remind you of what it sounded like. So this was one of the lead singles off of that record called The Rotting. We'll just jump to the middle part of the song because I don't want to extend the torture any further than I have to. But just listen to what was churned up on that last 6 Feet Under record. I mean, that sounds like pub rock, and then we move on, because when the vocals kick in, that is when things truly hits they hit the very nadir of this band's existence. think that was the sole vocal bit that we were going to hear. So let me just rewind just a tad, because we do have to hear those vocals again. That was fucking abysmal. And again, you know, part of me is always going to wish that these old school guys I grew up listening to, you know, have that redemption story that, you know, Chris Barnes comes out all of a sudden through, you know, miracles of fucking modern science. He sounds like the Chris Barnes that did Tomb of the Mutilated. I do not see it happening, though. You know, when you live your life rough and raw, it catches up to you eventually. Speaking of living life rough and raw, so listen to AI James Hetfield singing Seal's Kiss from a Rose. Some of these AI covers that they've been doing is pretty fucking crazy. I was immediately curious when I saw this article on We Are the Pit. So let's listen. Just to not be branded a wimp, I'm going to move to the 1 minute mark so we can hear whether we can hear some of them vocals yet.
Oh, the more I get, I feel strange how it feels, yeah. And now that your roses in bloom, I like hits the gloom on the grave. There is so much a man can tell you, so much he can say. You remain my power, my pleasure, my pain, baby. Tell me your life's a grown addiction, then I kiss your mind. Won't you tell me is it healthy grade? But did you know that when it snows, my eyes become large and the light?
That is fucking wild. I mean, you can yeah, there's nuances that they haven't got down quite pat just yet, but it's coming. It's absolutely coming. It's fucking insane. Absolutely insane. Gary Holt on Slayer returning. I think the band has ended. Let's hear what he has to say about this.
And you got to talk to other people. That's out of my pay grade. You know, look, if anybody ever asked me to do it, and of course I'm down to do it. But I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think the band's ended, and unlike all the other farewell tours that started 5 years ago and are still continuing, I think this one's over. Yeah.
I strongly agree with him. I know that everybody in the band would be up for it, barring Tom Araya, and I think Tom Araya's wife would probably end up leaving him if he rejoined the band. That's the impression I get from having seen her on social media. So, you know, without Tom, there is no Slayer. So I mean, money greases a lot of wheels. I think it would have to be an extraordinary amount of money, maybe more money than it would be worth investing to get them back up and running. But anyway, it also has a separate section here on this article where they ranked the Slayer discography. So let's have a gander at that and maybe wrap up with a ranking of our own. So they've got the top 12 here, starting with number 12, Diabolus in Musica. Their number 11 is Undisputed Attitude. At number 10, they've got God Hates Us All. At number 9, they've got Divine Intervention. At number 8, they have got Christ Illusion. 7 is Repentless. 6 is Show No Mercy. 5 is World Painted Blood. I don't know what kind of crack rock they were smoking when they came up with that, but anyway. At number 4, they've got Hell Awaits. At number 3, they've got South of Heaven. At number 2, they have Seasons in the Abyss. At number 1, they've got Rain and Blood. So, mine differs quite substantially just off the top of my head. Starting with my number 1. My number 1 would be, and I'm very much in two minds. Like it could change on a dime. But right now, the album that I go back to most frequently by Slayer is Show No Mercy. Because I think that there are so many fucking great songs on that record. You've got Die by the Sword, you've got Black Magic, my favorite Slayer song, you've got Evil Has No Boundaries, you've got the song Show No Mercy. Yeah, there's just a lot of very, very cool songs on there. There's a lot of incredible high points on that album, and that's kind of Slayer's career. It's been every single record is a series of high points. I don't personally think they've got an album that is 100% note perfect. They've got a lot of high points, and then as their career went on, a diminishing number of high points, which brings me to album number 2. I would probably put their Seasons in the Abyss. Number 3 would be South of Heaven, so look quite similar to what they've got here. Number 4 would be Rain in Blood. Number 5 for me would be Hell Awaits. Then I would have Divine Intervention. Then I would put in God Hates Us All. Then we get to really the dregs of the Slayer discography. I'd probably say World Painted Blood was the best album that they did beyond God Hates Us All. Christ Illusion I'd probably put next. And I would have Repentless. Straight after that, probably Diablos and Musica and Undisputed Attitude. That would be my straight off the top of my head ranking of the Slayer albums. But like I said, the one I go back to most right now, or most frequently, is Show No Mercy. There is every chance that's going to change. But any hoot, my friends, that means that the news rant for this week is done. That wraps it up for this week, my friends. Thank you so much if you have stuck around until the very end, and thank you once again for the growing support that I see week over week. The 5-star reviews are piling up. I see more and more of you buying merch. I see more and more of you sharing the episodes, and I cannot tell you how humbled and deeply appreciative I am. It just motivates me to do better shows week in and week out, and that is why next week, make sure that you come back, because the episode with John from Black Braid is not one that you're going to want to miss. I have got so many exciting names in the hopper. I'm not going to share anything because, as you know, I'm a little superstitious, and I don't want to fuck anything up. But if even half of them come off, it's going to be a couple of very, very exciting months on Into the Necrosphere. I'm going to play us out with a classic today by Vital Remains off of Into Cold Darkness. Shamefully, I left this off my honorable mentions list last week, so I can only atone for it by reminding you guys how great of a record this is. There was a Vital Remains before Glenn Benton joined them, and they did De-Christianize and Icons of Evil, and I would argue that it was superior Vital Remains. My friends, whatever it is that you do over the coming week, stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you bad motherfuckers again next Tuesday.
forever.